It's a paradox. There's a higher quality of life in the country, but there's a lower level of intelligence in the average
Mm.
people.
Mm.
Um, because cities promote faster thinking,
Mm.
because more is happening. And the brain can be retrained to absorb more information.
Mm-hmm.
And it can be done step by step. For example, if you listen to people do this with podcasts. People do this with data and information. You can listen at normal speed, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
or you can listen faster, or you
Yes.
can listen slower. Now, for learners of language, it is good to have the possibility to listen slower, and you get more words, more phrases, more information. But for native speakers, it's actually better to listen faster than normal speed because the brain learns to process the information faster. And very often you can listen to data and information at twice as fast as normal and still get the same amount of data and information from it.
Mm.
It's crazy, but the brain acclimatizes and accustoms itself to your environment. If you are in a place where people speak faster, your brain learns that faster is normal.
Yes, it's true. Mm.
Yeah. The same way that if you are at different altitudes of height in the world, if you're at the top of a mountain or if you're at sea level, your breathing changes. Your body adapts to get the right amount of oxygen into the body that the body needs.
Mm.
The body calculates and understands and adapts to the environment. The brain does the same thing.
Mm.
And in a city, people have to calculate faster. They have to process more. They have to understand better. And this leads to a different type of thinking. Not always better, not always better, but the advantage of cities in general is that you have more people who are more intelligent in that area. There's a higher probability of meeting people of higher IQ in an urban city area than there is in a rural country area.
Mm.
And IQ is not everything, but is pretty important.
Mm.
It's pretty important because it means that you make the right decisions at the right times. What we learned before, we try to apply it to where we are now, which
Mm.
usually works well, but not always.
Mm.
It happens that new problems sometimes require new solutions
Mm-hmm.
that we have not yet discovered. And as we get older, we rely on, we depend on, we lean on our history more and more. If we don't keep up to date, a lot of things will be worse. I mean, business never sleeps,
Mm.
right? Business never sleeps. If you don't progress in business, somebody else will. And I have a theory about phones and applications and updates. I don't think the applications get updated. I think the people get updated. The updates are not for the applications, the updates are for the people. Because through the applications, people's habits are transformed.
Mm.
So I can't prove this. I don't have enough evidence for this, but it makes sense to my brain that the updates to the applications transform and change people's habits. And so the updates don't just update the applications, they also update the people at the same
Mm.
time.
Yes. That's right.
And this is a very efficient and effective way for society to progress forward because we have access to people through the phone, through the
Mm.
device that they carry with them, the android, the robot, the technology. And I think it's okay in general because I think that people need it. They need that they need that push.
Mm.
It's interesting that notifications on the desktop are called push notifications.
Mhm. Mm.
Push.
Yes, yes. When we have more, we expect also more. Mm.
Ah. uh, we are also
Because,
able to
mm.
raise our ability the same way that we can listen to people speaking faster. I mentioned that earlier. We can actually update our own abilities as human beings. Um, the trouble is we fight against things like physical and cognitive decline. Yeah, we
Mhm.
fight against the inability of the body to reproduce the basic functions that we need in order to survive. Uh, the sun has come out. One second, I have to change
Mm.
my
Your
picture a little
mode.
bit.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah. The it's a Scottish thing, right? It's the dark light, dark light, dark light is a constant
Mhm.
part of the day. Um, so yeah, I've lost my train of thought now. What did I say?
Cognitivity.
Oh yeah, yes, the cognitive decline, right? That it's the great challenge that the 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 basic cells of life begin to reproduce less accurately over
Mm.
time, and so
Mm. Yeah.
physically and mentally, basically physically. For some people, it's like at the age of 20, their physical decline starts, right? But
Mm.
for other people, it's 40. It's different for different people, and but mentally, the decline starts sort of between the ages of 50 and 60 because you can still develop the brain and develop that which is physical has different problems from that which is mental
Mhm.
and psychological. Um, the physical form is difficult to transform. It's possible. It takes 7 years to transform physically. It's possible.
7
Seven,
years.
7 years. Yeah. Every cell in the human body completely regenerates 100% over 7 years.
Mhm.
The entire human body regenerates over 7 years.
Mhm.
So every 7 years, you get a new body,
Mhm.
entirely new body. Your body today is 100% new and different from every cell in it is completely different from who you were 7 years ago. Every cell in your body is completely different. And what this means is that if you prepare now, then your body in 7 years can be whatever you want it to be,
Mhm.
within reason, right? Within, there's there's some things that we can't control too much, but within
Mhm.
reason, and that's why preparation is important because regeneration will happen. It will happen because it happens naturally. It happens automatically. But we have to understand it takes 7 years. So anybody who is completely unhealthy and unfit at this moment in time, if they start today and they change their habits every day and they do it for 7 years, in 7 years' time, they can be the fittest person on the planet if they want.
Mm.
But you have to give 7 years of your
Life.
life to that process. And I don't mean it doesn't mean every second of the day, but it means maybe 1 hour of the day every day to that process.
Mm.
And and to be conscious of it. And it's entirely possible. So the physical side is complex, but the mental side can actually be changed like that in a moment. The mental, it's a decision. It's a second. It might the process might take 40 years, but the decision only takes a second.
Yes.
The learning, the reading, the studying, the experiences may take 40 years, but the decision that we make only takes a second. So, and crazy. This is crazy, but anybody, anywhere, at any time can make the right decision. Even fools and stupid people can make the right decision, which can change everything. There was a horror film called The Cube. So it's like 5 or 6 people, or they wake up in the
They
room,
are
and,
in, yes.
and it's like a prison, and they have to try to find a way out and escape. And the only person who survives at the end.
Don't tell me. Don't tell me.
No!
I don't remember.
Well, the principle of the story is that our intelligence, our intellect is a trap. And when people understand the intellect and the thought processes of another person, it's very easy to get them to do things. Yeah, because people will, like a computer has a default process, a default system. People have default systems, something they always go back to in the past because it always worked.
After restart.
Yeah. But the default process is what we talked about earlier. It's what you go back to that always worked. But that might not be the best way to progress, because maybe you're in a new situation. Maybe it requires something different. And it's a very interesting psychological thriller film, and like all, it was, I saw it years ago, but it stays with me in the back of my mind because it's an analogy for life. The basic principle is about making the right decision. Survival, which is life, family, business, the world, economics, is about making the right decision. And what is the right decision changes. What might be, in stock markets are the perfect example of this. Buy today but sell tomorrow. Same stock. The situation changes. Maybe you buy stock in, I don't know, Facebook or Microsoft. You buy shares in the company today, but maybe you sell them tomorrow. Same shares. You make a different decision based on the environment, and maybe what was the right decision today becomes the wrong decision tomorrow, and the average person can't deal with that. The average person cannot deal with the fact that life is full of paradox and contradiction. It's one of, I deal with this in the first book, Principles, deals with this somewhere in the book, where I talk about you have to be comfortable with paradox. You have to be really, really comfortable with paradox. And paradox is that today the right decision is to hire somebody. But tomorrow the right decision might be to fire the person. And you have to understand that today's decision was the right decision. But that because things change, tomorrow's decision becomes different from today's decision. And it's also a paradox because you don't know if the right decision is to work with the person, to work through the problem, to invest time in helping them, or to say, hands off, I don't want anything to do with this. This is not good for me. And we never know
Mm.
because we can't see that far into the future. And we have to understand that things don't happen to us, they happen for us. Things don't happen to us, they happen for us, which is the difference. That preposition,
Mm.
changing for
Change
to,
everything. Mm-hmm.
yes, yeah, it changes the negative to the positive. Because if we think it happens to us, I'm passive. I'm passive. I have no power. Passive people have no power. But if we think it happens for us, it's given to me as an opportunity. Life is a gift to be to be understood, to be studied, to be learned. It's not a punishment,
Mm.
right? It's not to be abused. It's to be used. If we understand that life happens for us, the challenge is for us, the problem is for us, and we need it because we have to learn something. And it's really hard. It's hard for me to because easiest thing to do in the world is to say you did it, and this is your responsibility, and especially when you have kids.
Mm.
I say to my kids, why did you do that? And my kid is looking at me like, well, I learned everything from you. And I'm like, oh, shit.
Huh?
Where did I go wrong? Oh, no. What goes around comes around, right?
Mm.
Every bad habit you have will be reflected in your children, and you will be very angry at them for having your bad habits.
Mm.
Because we all are like that, really. Uh, uh, every and we run away and we hide from our own negative sides, and or most people do. It's very difficult to embrace those things, but understanding the challenge, the opportunity that things happen for us and not to us is this, I think, the simplest way to realize that um, that we need to approach life with a positive perspective. Sport teaches us this.
Mm.
It's a fundamental. People lose games all the time. I think tennis is a great way to understand life. It's a stupid game, but it's a great way to understand life because you don't win every point.
Mm-hmm.
You don't win every point. You don't win every game. You don't win every set. You don't win every match. You don't win every tournament. But you can still be extremely successful if you try. You can still be. You can be losing. You can be losing 2 sets to love, 5 games to love, 40 love. You know, the score can be, everything can be against you, but you can still play better and you can still play well and you can still win. You don't need to win every point.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need to win every game. You don't need to score every goal. It's not necessary. You just need to be consistently improving. And for as long as you consistently improve, you become a better person. And if you can sharpen your sword on the swords of other people, then you learn to deal with challenges. Failure is not failure. This was part of my conversation yesterday with this teacher about education and learning. The failure is so misunderstood. Failure is very important on the road to success. Failure is very important. I mean, how many clients do you contact that don't buy from you? You probably
Mhm.
contact more people who don't buy from you than do buy from you,
Yes,
because
of
that's
course.
the fact with all businesses, right? Right. So, you can look at it and say, well, there's more failure than success. It's true, and the understanding is the greater the failures, the greater the successes. There's no great success that hasn't experienced great failure. None. There doesn't exist great success without great failure.
Mm.
It's always there, and people see failure, to fail, to be unsuccessful, as something negative. And it's not. It's nothing negative at all. It's just the other side of it's just the other side of the coin, So
Mm.
it's the other side. Every coin has a head and a tail, heads and tails.
Mhm.
And one side is success and the other side is failure. It's the same coin. They both, success and failure, give you the same thing. And that thing is feedback. It's information. Success and failure both give you feedback. It's information. Um, Formula One, um, Formula One mechanics, designers.
Mhm.
And I know this because I lived in London years ago, and one of my friends worked for a Formula One racing company.
Mhm.
And they built the engines for the cars. And the very first thing that they do after they build the engine is they destroy the engine. It's the very first thing they do. They take the engine and they put the engine in a room, and they have hundreds of cameras, and they focus all the cameras on the engine, and then they turn the engine on and they run the engine at maximum speed
Mhm.
until the engine just
Mhm.
breaks and falls apart.
Okay.
And
To check the maximum.
yeah, yeah, to see where it fails so that they can see where to improve it,
Mm.
so that they can make it safer, so that it doesn't kill anybody,
Mm.
so that they understand, okay, this part here breaks first, so we need to make this part stronger or safer
Mhm.
so that there's not a problem. So destruction is an important element of creation. In fact, in economics, we live in an economic system that's called creative destruction. That's the name of the economic system we have. The Western economic system, if you Google the term creative destruction in economics, this is the system that we have in the West, where it's designed to fail so that it can be improved. The systems are designed to crash. The average life expectancy of a currency is 27 years.
Mhm.
Average, right, of a currency. Now you get unique examples, the British pound or the American dollar. But we have
Mhm.
200 countries in the world. And if you look at economics, the average length of a currency is 27 years. And so when we understand this, we understand it's not meant to be forever.
Mhm.
It's not meant to be forever. It must have a failure within it so that it can be redesigned, developed, or improved. And in fact, if you look at the British pound or the American dollar, they changed from being on silver-based systems to gold-based systems they have changed the currency, but not changed the name.
Mhm.
So it's not the dollar is not the same today the same dollar as it was 100 years ago, and the pound is not the same pound as it was 100 years ago. The name is the same, but the economic system has changed. And the average length of an economic currency system is 27 years. So when we understand that, we can understand that there will be a crisis in economics every 27 years.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe sooner than every 27. It really varies depending upon where we are. And we have to understand that it's okay to fail. It's not a problem as long as we learn and we build better.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and this doesn't mean that everyone should fail all the time, right? Right? Because if you fail all the time, maybe you didn't learn anything.
Mm-hmm.
If you make the same mistake again and again and
Mm-hmm.
again and again and again, see, that's not good. And that's the paradox. Failure is important. We need failure, but if you fail all the time, that's not good either.
Mm-hmm.
The team that always loses goes down. The team that always wins goes up. The team that always wins doesn't always win. It's a paradox. The team that always wins the league doesn't always win every game, doesn't always win every half of every game, doesn't always win every tournament. And the team that always goes down doesn't lose every game. They win a
Mm-hmm.
game from time to time, but they still go down. It's the contradictions, the paradoxes that people need to understand better in order to be successful. Yeah, you can live a very comfortable and happy life from being a failure. Really, you can. How many people have tried to be president of a country and failed, but they're still happy?
Mm-hmm.
How many people have tried to be captain of the football team and failed, but they're still happy? Right? So and it's about being happy and understanding the result that to fail is absolutely necessary. How you react to failure, how you respond, how you understand, how you analyze, how you check the feedback. And all champions study that information. They study that data. All successful teams study the data. They analyze what works
Mm-hmm.
and what doesn't work. Did you know in football, you watch if you see football is everything. I hate football. I hate football, by the way. I hate football. I have to take my son to a football match next week, and I hate football. But anyway,
Wow.
so but you can learn something from everything,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's my perspective. You can learn something from everything. So, but if a football player touches the ball 2 times, the possibility that he will lose the ball is only 10 to 20%.
Only?
But if a football player touches the ball 3 times, the possibility that he will lose the ball is 40 to 50%.
Mm-hmm.
One touch. One touch. Now, the great players understand this. It's not difficult. It's not a difficult concept. The great players understand this. You watch any football game, stop, pass, control, pass. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 2 touches, 2 touches. The great players never touch the ball more than twice. Never. 2 touches. Control, pass, move, control, pass, move, control, pass, move, 2 touches. The average players touch the ball 3 times. Now you get genius, right, who touches the ball more. You get exceptions. That exists. But that one touch is a massive difference between success and failure. That one piece of understanding, that one piece of information. Because that extra touch is 1 extra second, and that extra second is one person closer to you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not just about football. That's in most sports. That's in most sports. Football's the most easy to understand example of it. But that extra second makes all the difference. And you watch any professional team, no player will touch the ball more than twice. Because if you touch it 3 times, the chances are you've lost the ball. And that's why you have, and it's that. And do you know that like 50% of the people who play football don't understand this concept? They don't understand because they're fighting against their own ego.
Mm-hmm.
And the ego is that if I have the ball, I have control.
Mm-hmm.
But the secret is you have to give it away. To keep it, this is paradox, the paradox. To keep it, you have to give it away. To keep control, you have to give the ball away. Because if you don't, you lose it. And you have to trust in the people around you that they will all think the same way.
Mm-hmm.
And millions and millions of pounds are spent each year trying to teach stupid footballers to play football this way. So to touch it 2 times and not 3 times. Yeah. And a lot of them can't do it because they can't get around or past their own ego. Their own ego is a big wall that stops them because they have to give away their power to have power. To be a mother, you have to trust a father. To be a father, you have to trust a mother. You have to give away your power.
Mm-hmm.
To have it, you have to give it away. You know, you have to trust your children. You have to give your power away to your children. You have to trust your children. And it's the same in business, where you have to trust your employees and the people around you to fulfill and perform the tasks in a way that will achieve the desired results. And nothing has changed for hundreds of years. It's still the same idea, and it's still the same problem. It's an interesting part of psychology. You mentioned the IQ test, and I think IQ tests are really important because they give us a lot of feedback. They give us a lot of information that can make us think about. And I'm always amazed at how stupid I am. I'm always amazed by my own stupidity. I'm always like, why did I do that? Or, why did I not do that?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, uh, uh. I made, um, I, I made a bet on eBay for something last week. And I lost the bet, and I was so happy that I lost. I was so happy that I lost. Yeah. It's an interesting
Because.
concept. Because I studied something and I thought this is a great deal. I will bet on this. It's a great deal.
Okay.
And then I studied it
Okay.
more.
A few minutes later, yes. Uh-huh. Okay.
It was a couple of hours later, okay, because
Okay. Okay.
it took longer for it
Mm.
for the information to filter through my brain. And then I realized a few hours later that was not a good idea. That
Mm-hmm.
was a really bad idea. And so when somebody bet higher than me, I was so happy. Right? I was so happy that I lost. And it was more than that because I was happy that I understood
Mm-hmm.
that I was stupid and that I made a mistake and that the mistake was because I didn't process the information in the right way, and I didn't have the right information. And now I'm a little bit wiser, and I understand that the the things don't happen to us; they happen for us.
Mm.
And that, and in order to have that understanding, I needed to make that mistake.
Mm.
Now, hopefully, the mistakes that we make are just with little things that are not important, right?
Not important. Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah, but you can get the same understanding from a small mistake as you can from a big mistake. Because it's processes and
Mm.
principles and information. If you have the right information, you make the right decisions. If you have the wrong information and you have the wrong processes, you make the wrong decisions. Which might be the right decision at the time. It's like I made a good decision at the time. I was really happy with myself. And then I realized that I was stupid.
Mm.
And that was not such a good idea. But okay. That's a part of the process of understanding things. And so the IQ is really powerful. It's very very it's the self-testing systems.
Mm.
So important in life. The time limit. Yeah. Notice all games have time limits. All
Oh.
games have all games have time
Mm-hmm.
limits.
Yes, yes, yes.
It's the time limit that creates the excitement, the adrenaline, the
Mm.
rush, the uh, the pressure, the progress sometimes. And that's all important to understand. Um, all important to understand. Um,